You are watching Wide Field with Vivian Birchall. This is Wide Field.
Welcome to the show. I'm Vivian Kobusingye Birchall, your host. And my special guest today is Congresswoman Trahan, who is going to be taking us through what the American Rescue Plan means to all of us. Congresswoman, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's great to be here, Vivian. Thank you.
So we're excited and celebrating the reopening of the economy after so much time. I think it's been a year and a half or so, and people are back up and about. But this has not happened. This has happened not without scars from the pandemic. We have many businesses that have shut down, so many storefronts. We have people who are priced out of housing, renters, people looking to buy homes. We also have people who have lost jobs, and so the unemployment rate has been, fluctuating. And we have hundreds of households who have food insecurity or are experiencing food insecurity. And at Capitol Hill, there you have passed an American Rescue Plan that is supposed to provide relief to our states and other local governments. So what is this rescue plan?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for the question, because the American Rescue Plan isn't just about saving state and local governments, but also saving workers and our families and our small businesses. I'll first start by saying, it's thanks to the American Rescue Plan that we are on track as a country to defeat COVID-19. This package has helped us get 320 million shots in arms and fully vaccinate nearly half of all adults across our country. And certainly it's the direct relief that we're sending to working families has been extremely effective in helping them keep a roof over their head and put food on the table. And certainly economists have forecasted that our economy is on track to grow at its fastest pace in nearly 4 decades. So that progress nationwide is thanks to the American Rescue Plan. But the impact of this historic package here in the Commonwealth is just as visible. Nearly 9 million vaccine doses have been administered, and cases and deaths are at lows we haven't seen since the earliest days of the pandemic. Meanwhile, new unemployment claims continue to plummet, and last week only 7,500 people filed new unemployment claims, and that's the lowest since the start of the COVID-19 layoffs. Tens of thousands of people are returning to work each month. And statewide, the economy is posting record-breaking growth that far outpaces the nationwide gains, showing that what we're doing is working. But you bring up a good point. We can't stop now, and we have to acknowledge that the work ahead to fuel this growth and make sure that no one, especially our most vulnerable communities, is left behind in our recovery. So I'll just touch on a few of the highlights of what the American Rescue Plan included. Certainly, it sent $1,400 payments to 4 million Bay Staters, plus additional money for children. More than $5 billion allocated to the state of Massachusetts, over $3 billion for local governments to use for pandemic response and recovery. And that includes over $7 million for the town of Acton. My favorite part of this bill was, nearly all working families will be receiving a monthly child tax credit payment up to $300 per child through the end of the year, starting on July 15th. In Massachusetts, this credit is going to benefit 129,400 children across the district that I represent, and it's going to lift 8,200 children out of poverty. The American Rescue Plan lowered the cost of premiums for Bay Staters purchasing coverage through the marketplace, which folks should know they must sign up for healthcare if they haven't already before the June 23rd deadline. Childcare, more than $510 million from Massachusetts childcare providers and $13.6 million for Head Start facilities. so that they could open safely, keep workers on the payroll, and lower the cost of tuition or access for parents looking to re-enter the workforce. Like so many moms out there, my kids went back to school in the middle of April, and that was because, more than $1.8 billion from Massachusetts public schools, K through 12, were able to prioritize safety measures for students and educators. And that will also help us prepare for, the upcoming school year. And finally, higher education institutions in the 3rd district. I've got many public universities and community colleges. They received $81 million in emergency funding, at least half of which will be distributed in the form of emergency cash assistance grants to students facing hunger, homelessness, and other hardships. So this package, I could speak for days about it because I only touched on some of the things that it delivered to the American people, but it really was a lifeline and also has been instrumental in us crushing the virus and getting to where we are today.
Yeah, one of the things that has caught my attention is when you said that this is going to help people lift people out of poverty. Can you speak to that a little bit? In what ways is it going to help?
Well, absolutely. The child tax credit, we've always had the child tax credit, but we've expanded it. So we know that we have so many families who are struggling, right? We've never seen food insecurity at this high rate before. And expanding the child tax credit was imperative so that we could get money in people's pockets beyond the survival checks that we had sent, back in March. And so this is the first time that the child tax credit you don't have to wait for the tax year to receive that credit. It's actually going to come in monthly installments. And so when you're thinking about that family that's been unemployed, supporting children in their household, but they've been in food bank lines because they're food insecure, their bills are piling up because they can't pay their utilities or they can't pay their mortgage or rent payments. This tax credit is going to be enormously helpful because it's going to be recurring and it's going to be money in the pockets of those families who need to provide, food and a roof over their children's heads. So, this is it's a really important benefit. And, I get to work with people like Chairwoman Rosa DeLauro, the Chairwoman of Appropriations, and of course our Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and they've been working to expand the child tax credit for 20 years. And making it part of the American Rescue Plan is a huge step in the right direction for what we prioritize in our country.
Right. And, you've mentioned over and over about the rental, people struggling with housing and renting. So are there any particular programs that are going to address that? Because it's a huge thing. I'm a renter and I'm outpriced.
Oh, I know. And this is an issue, confronting too many families across our country, but, specifically here in Massachusetts. The American Rescue Plan has been delivering on its promise to provide immediate relief to, like I said, individuals and families who are struggling to keep a roof over their heads. The Biden administration has created the Homeowner Assistance Fund and the Emergency Rental Assistance Program to provide desperately needed relief to homeowners, renters, and landlords who have been hit hard during the pandemic. So through the Homeowner Assistance Fund, nearly $10 billion has been allocated to the states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories. Each state's been awarded a minimum of $50 million to assist with mortgage payments, homeowner insurance, utility payments, and such. And $21.6 million has been allocated to the Emergency Rental Assistance Program to assist individuals and families with basic housing security. The Commonwealth was given over $361 million alone to ease the burden of people struggling to come up with rent. Last week, the governor announced his administration's plan to invest $2.8 billion in federal COVID funding to support key priorities, including housing and home ownership. So in Massachusetts, you can apply for the Federal Emergency Rental Assistance Program. That is a specific program tailored to individuals who have a COVID-related financial hardship. And for those who don't meet that qualification, you can apply for the Residential Assistance for Families in Transition. We call it RAFT. And the Emergency Rental and Mortgage Assistance Programs. They provide up to $10,000 to pay overdue or future rent, mortgage, utility costs, and such. So To make it easy on folks, this is one thing the state did well. There is one application for all three programs that will allow staff at the Department of Housing and Community Development to determine your eligibility. So I think for rentals, the important thing to note is both tenants and landlords on behalf of tenants can apply for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And you can visit, mass.gov or even call 211 to check your eligibility and start the application process.
Well, this is good news. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I wanted to ask about your appointment to the Energy, and let me see if I can say that right. It's the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House of Representatives. How will your involvement with this committee address some of the challenges we have in our state and local communities?
Oh, well, thank you. I was thrilled to have been assigned a seat on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, where I was able to score my preferred subcommittees on health, consumer protection and commerce, and oversight and investigations. And, it's worth noting Massachusetts has held a seat on this powerful committee consistently for 140 years. So it's been crucial to our state's economy. And the issues before Energy and Commerce impact the everyday lives of people across Massachusetts. It has direct jurisdiction over critically important issues like healthcare, insurance, biomedical research, technology, environmental policy, the internet, privacy, and so much more. The Health Subcommittee has key jurisdictions as the federal government continues working to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. And it oversees, the Department of Health and Human Services, the National Institutes of Health, Center for Disease Control, the Food and Drug Administration, and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And so I'm really thrilled to be, on this committee. Look, as someone who grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, I understand the importance of access to quality, affordable healthcare, being able to afford life-saving prescription medicine, and rooted in my own life experiences, these issues, along with our urgent need to clean up the environment, tackle climate change, and rein in the dominance of big tech, those are top priorities for me on the committee. So I work in close coordination with the Biden administration, and I'll continue to use this appointment to deliver for the working families like the one I grew up in all across Massachusetts 3rd.
Right. Yeah, it's very exciting what you're doing, and some of the things that you have mentioned are really important to our community when you talk about environmental policies.
Yeah.
One of the key things that people in our local communities are caring so much about, and we had two town meetings, both approving the new housing with cleaner energy.
Yeah.
So that is so exciting,
Yeah.
which means it's something so dear to our local communities. And so I'm just wondering, what particular areas under environment are you focusing on?
Yeah, so I think we have to get, well, one, I'll start with, we have a new administration, and what was demonstrated by that new administration on day one was the importance of getting back to the Paris Climate Agreement, and hitting those important milestones so that we can finally tackle climate change. In the Energy and Commerce Committee, we play an enormous role in making sure that we're making investments in our transition from fossil fuel energy to renewable and sustainable energy sources that are carbon free. And that you're going to hear a lot about that this summer when we talk about the jobs plan and the infrastructure package. And those are going to be really important for us, not only investing in newer, cleaner energy in our country, but also winning the 21st century. I think we need to get back to a place in the world where we're leading again, and people look to the United States as a place for, aspiration and also leadership. So we can do this on the environment. Not to mention, Massachusetts has done a good job in investing in renewable energy, and we were just awarded the first federal permit for Vineyard Wind, and that is a very exciting, development. But think of the jobs that are going to be open to our younger generations. This is going to be an incredible opportunity, and it's one that Massachusetts is poised to really lead on across our country. So I'm thrilled. I mean, we're talking about electric vehicles and putting the charging stations and the infrastructure in place in this package that is being talked about with Republicans in the Senate. And you know, I just went to visit in Devens. We you know, pretty soon we'll be breaking ground on fusion energy, which could very well be the future of carbonless energy, unlimited source of energy. So I think it's really important that, you know, Massachusetts plays a role in all these federal investments that will be coming out of the Department of Energy and you know, leading like we do on so many issues.
Right. And I'm excited to see how all this pans out. You know, there's always the argument that this is based on assumptions because some of the remedies, or, you know, when you look at electrical cars, they are so expensive for the low and middle income person. So they are not something that is very achievable to a majority, you know, a part of the population. But I hope there are strategies to just kind of mitigate that.
You know, Vivian, I have to tell you, after the year we went through, not only the way the pandemic laid bare so many of the disparities in our healthcare system, but also the Black Lives Matter movement and the murder of George Floyd, we don't talk about anything without talking about equity. And so, you know, it permeating every conversation we have across every committee, across every policy prescription is how are we going to do this in a way where we leave no one behind, no community, no more, you know, ignoring distressed communities because it's too expensive to make investments there. Now it's how are we going to make sure that we're putting charging stations in Lawrence at the same rate that we're putting them in Acton. And that is a very important you know, change in the conversation. How are we going to make sure that, you know, we're supporting a marketplace where everyone can afford electric vehicles? We don't want to have just pockets in our country where some are, you know, breathing clean air and drinking clean water and other parts of our country are not. And so, you know, environmental justice, economic justice are all at play while we talk about these major investments. And I think that is a direct result of the year we just went through.
Well, thank you again, Congresswoman Trahan. There is one thing that I want to request because it's very passionate. I'm very passionate about it, and this is healthcare blind spots especially for people with dark skin. If it's something that you could help us advocate for at the Capitol, where, you know, our education materials are all full of light pictures, and we don't have, as Black people, reference materials to look up to. I had a firsthand experience here in my local town where I was asked if I have a reddish rash on my skin. So which shows that, you know, our healthcare system is a little broken, and it's very discouraging because it puts us at risk of losing our lives. Absolutely. The CDC itself, which is our major body, it still has bluish purple lips as one of the symptoms to look at of certain conditions, and doesn't give us what that looks like on people on Black and dark skin. So this is my plea to you. Yes. I care about we need to live just as lighter skinned people. Please help us.
You bet, you bet. And that's something we can take up on the healthcare subcommittee. I know, you know, we're talking about, you know, culturally sensitive care, how we get, you know, more Black and brown doctors and nurses and medical personnel in our pipeline. We know we have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of lessons to wring out after this past year. But that one it's specific and it's doable. So I thank you for raising it, and as always for, you know, all your advocacy, and we'll keep that conversation going for sure.
Thanks. I'm happy to contribute. You can count on me.
Yes, I know I can.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you again for being a guest on my show. Thanks for talking to us about the rescue plan. It's always important to hear from our leaders. And is there any word you have for our viewers before I let you go?
No, you know, I guess as a mom, I always have to remind folks that if you haven't gotten vaccinated yet, please do it. It's so important for our community. It's so important for you and your own health. I mean, we do have variants out there right now that we want to make sure everyone's protected. And the best thing that we can do is get vaccinated. Because I don't know about you, but I spent last weekend with my parents, and I got to see my nieces and my nephews and my children sort of hug their aunts and uncles and my parents again. And that is the key to all of us being able to do that without the fear of, contracting COVID, is to go get vaccinated. So please do your part. And hopefully I'll be seeing everyone soon again. We're starting to do more in-person events. Certainly, if you have any concerns, don't hesitate to call our office. It's 978-459-0101. Follow us on trahan.house.gov for all of our resources that we provide, as well as events that we do online that will get you important information. But thank you for the chance to come on, Vivian. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Congresswoman, for being my guest on this show. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Till next time.